Today is all about pruning mulberry trees. That's up next. Hello everyone, this is Dwayne with Edge of Nowhere Farm, and we're coming to you here in January. If you guys have been following us along, you know that we have over 180 fruiting trees, vines, and shrubs here on the Sonoran Desert Farm. And one of our favorite fruits of all time, and we love to grow here in the desert, is mulberries. We have 6 different varieties of mulberry here on the farm. What you're going to be seeing us prune today is our favorite, by far, of those 6, and that's a Shangri La Mulberry. So you can see we get a wonderful harvest out of these 4 trees behind me here. These have been in the ground almost since the beginning. One of the first trees we planted here on the farm were these mulberry trees that we propagated from the old farm. So they've been in the ground going on 5 years now. So definitely mature trees, and we're gonna really show you what we do to encourage strong production on these 5-year-old Shangri La mulberry trees. But before we get started, let's show you the tools we're gonna be using for today. Primary tool for today is going to be a small pruner. These are ideal for smaller branches, really up to about 1/2 inch, but comfortably only about 1/4 inch with as much pruning work as we do in a season. And those pruners are going to be bypass pruners, which means the blade bypasses the anvil in order to make a clean cut. I prefer the Felco pruners. Those are fantastic, high quality pruners. A little more expensive though. The Corona pruners are just fine as well. For any larger branches up to about 1 inch, maybe 1.5 inches, we have a pair of bypass loppers. Those do a really good job as long as they're sharp with getting those larger branches. The loppers that we've been using for many, many years. They're a little beat up, but they work just fine. And then of course, as my hands get tired, my DeWalt pruners, I can pretty much guarantee those will be out at some point today. Those take off branches 1.5 inches and smaller very easily. We've covered this before, but a mature tree, especially for production, we always plant them and cut them low so you can see how small the trunk is. It's only about 2 feet. And then we have 4 scaffold branches to really balance out the tree. So in years past, you've seen us making a lot of big cuts on the tree. Now that we have a mature, established tree, we're really focusing on production. So when we're making our pruning cuts, what we're gonna focus on first is any of the branches that are down low, that will be touching the ground. We wanna remove those or prune them up. The second thing is I'm gonna be working on our harvesting notch. Now, you're on the south side of this tree, I'm on the north side here, and our harvesting notch is what we use in order to get into the middle of the tree. So the open center design with these 4 scaffolds and removing some of these branches here so I can easily get into the middle for harvesting during the harvesting season. So we'll make those cuts first. You can see that there. Mm-hmm. So the next thing we're looking for here is any dead or dying branches. I don't see any offhand on this tree, but we're also looking for any branches that either are crossing or will be crossing during the growing season. So really all I'm looking for here, these are gonna obviously cross. This branch is pointing out, which I want, so I'm gonna cut it about 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch above this branch here. So I'm in the harvesting notch now. We need to make sure that we can get in here easily to harvest. So we've got a few branches in here that I'm gonna go ahead and take out to leave the very middle open, but I don't want it too open because we don't want sunshine pounding directly into the middle of this. So before we move any further, I want to talk to you about a couple things. First thing is where your fruit will develop. That is on new growth out of wood that is at least a year old. So everything that's on this tree now, anything that grows from those branches will produce fruit for us. And every time you make a pruning cut, that induces growth at that cut. And what it'll do is grow from the first node or bud. And so as we're going through, we're going to be making a lot of small pruning cuts to induce new growth out at these tips. And we're looking for an outward facing bud to go the direction that we want the tree to grow. One other note on this, we want these trees to be big. We plan on doing some U-pick with these eventually. We want folks to be able to pick the fruit down low, and then we want the fruit that's higher up. So we're not focused on bringing the height of the tree down. If that's an issue and you have a space constraint, you can very easily at this point during the winter cut these trees back down almost as far as you want to. They're very forgiving as long as they grow aggressively like we get here. In fact, we get several feet of growth each growing season on our mulberry trees, so we can be really aggressive. But here today, we're focused on making a lot of individual cuts that will induce a lot of growth to produce fruit. So really what we've got here with this tree is a lot of potential production. We have a harvesting notch that you've seen us use before. We can easily get into the middle of the tree. There will be fruit throughout this tree. We want to be able to get into the middle to easily harvest it. We've cleared up any branches that are going to be growing into one another so we don't get any damage on the tree during the growing season. We tipped back a lot of the branches so that it'll induce the tree to put new branching on, which is where all of our fruit production occurs. One last step, if you wanted to bring the tree size down, now is the time to do it. You would bring each one of those branches down to whatever height you wanted it to be at the end of the growing season. What we've shown you here today are the basics as far as how to prune a mulberry tree, but the reality is you can do it however you'd like. Make sure you remember your fruit production will be on new wood that comes out of these existing branches by the time you're done. So just want to thank you for joining us today. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel. We cover a lot of things here on this newly established Sonoran desert farm and would love to see you on a regular basis. If you have any questions or comments, those go in the comment section down below. And our Amazon shop, I'll leave a link down in the description. That's a free, painless way to help support the channel. If you start with the link down below, it doesn't matter what you buy, you help to support us here. So just want to thank you for joining us today and remind you, if we can farm on the edge of nowhere, so can you. I'm sitting here looking at the sun this entire time. And there's the plane.